Hello and welcome, I'm your Code Monkey. So here let's see about a story, which is something that can happen so you should know about it so you can prepare for it. It's actually something that has happened to me, and it was quite stressful when it happened to me. So hopefully by me telling you this, hopefully if it does happen to you, you won't feel so caught off guard. Here's the story, it's how first game made 1 mil and second game made $0. That's a bit of an exaggeration, but that is roughly it. How you can have one game find insane success and the next one not so much. Like I wrote here, so the game industry is very tricky, especially for indie devs. One of the benefits you have is experience, which is why I always recommend you make multiple smaller games rather than one big one, because you can gain more experience quickly. Experience truly is the closest thing there is to a secret in this industry. The more experience you have, the better you become. For a beginner, finding success is pretty much just completely random, whereas for an experienced dev, finding success can be more of a scientific thing. It is never guaranteed, but you can definitely improve the odds if you have experience. However, even with that experience, every game is still a separate thing, so having massive success with one game does not guarantee massive success on the next one. This right here is a crucial point. Like I'm going to mention in a little bit, this is exactly what happened to me. I do hope you find tons of success with your games, but just know that if you find success with your first game or whatever game it is, that does not mean that the next game won't find as much success or even more. Every game is pretty much standalone, even if it is a sequel. There are so many games where the first game does X amount and the sequel really does nothing. And there are other cases, of course, where the original does this and the sequel does quite a bit better. So it can basically go both ways. In this case, one developer on Reddit wrote about their experience, how they found success with the Matriarch. That's this game right here, it's got 700 reviews. This one was published back in 22. It's a hide-and-seek game on a diabolical convent. So it's got kind of like an imposter mechanics. It's a multiplayer party game. So yep, quite interesting and a lot of people really enjoyed it. And because of that, the developer then made another game. It's also relatively similar. Also a multiplayer party game. And this one, instead of getting 700 reviews, it just got 15. So yep, similar games, similar mechanics. One found an insane amount of success, and this one 3 years later found very much zero success. Now thankfully, after thinking for quite a bit, the developer came up with 5 takeaways on why the second game failed. Here is the entire Reddit post. So my first game sold 140,000 units. That's an insane amount. That's definitely a mega hit. But my second game only sold 1,200. That is literally, what is that, like 1,000x less? That is definitely an insane amount. So going through this, definitely quite rough. However, one very good thing is that the developer actually took the time to write all this, try to analyze what went wrong. This is definitely something that you should do. Failure is actually usually a better teacher than success. If you find success, usually you can't really learn too much from it. But if you encounter failure, chances are you will learn quite a bit more from that. So if you do fail with your projects, or rather I should say when, because if you make enough games, it's a guarantee that some of them will hit and some will fail. But if you learn from those failures in order to basically improve your odds of finding hits, if so, then those failures are actually not bad. They're actually a great thing. They're very much an integral part of the learning process. So this developer did do that correctly. They learned quite a bit from that. And I hope by learning they managed to find quite a bit more success in the future. So out of those takeaways, how blending genres or mechanics can hurt your core experience more than elevates it. Yep, that's definitely a great one. Sometimes some people, especially beginners, they think, okay, so this genre is hot and this genre is hot, so if I put them both together, maybe I end up with a game that is mega hot. But the answer is probably not. Sometimes it does work, sometimes you can mix genres and it works very well. Other times, mixing genres just makes things quite a bit more confusing. So this is definitely something that needs to be done carefully, and importantly, it needs to be done with a ton of prototyping, just to make sure that the unique genre build that you created, that one actually does work, actually does elevate it, as opposed to punish the entire core experience. Then don't blindly adapt genres without first dissecting what makes them work. This part is really crucial when it comes to learning about game design. It is very important that when you play some kind of game, if you want to improve yourself, then you should be constantly analyzing, okay, why is this game so satisfying? Why am I enjoying playing this so much? Why do I want to continue playing this? Try to figure out what exactly is the game doing that makes it work. Game design is very much both art and science at the same time, so you can definitely analyze these games and try to figure out what were the unique elements that make this really compelling, so you can then apply this to your game. For example, if you want to find a hit just like Schedule 1, the answer is not just, okay, just make a game about dealing drugs. No, the answer is going to be quite a bit more complex than that. It is going to be based on the actual moment-to-moment gameplay. So you should definitely spend some time dissecting what makes some genres work, so if you're working on that genre, you know what exactly you need to do. You know exactly what the players in that genre expect. Then perhaps the most important one, a strong contrast can be your hook, and the lack of thereof can explain why your game or trailer feels dull. Nowadays, you do need something unique, some kind of hook in order for your game to stand out. And back when this game came out, back in 2022, I believe back then, multiplayer party games was still quite a nice, unique hook. I mean, this was roughly around the time where Among Us was basically blowing up. So back then, these games were still pretty unique. Whereas now, by 2025, yeah, this genre was definitely oversaturated. Definitely, there are a ton of games trying to jump along on the Among Us train. So nowadays, definitely no longer such a hooky idea. Picking a good hook is definitely absolutely essential. And if you don't do that, then yeah, your game or trailer will definitely feel dull. Then clearly define the design requirements before jumping into art production. This one can be super useful for basically avoiding wasting a ton of work. If you don't know what exactly you're going to need and you just start making stuff, chances are a lot of the things that you make are not going to be used. This is great advice both in terms of art, but also in terms of programming. If you just start writing code, just something that you think you're going to need, without actually thinking on the high end how the game is actually going to work, then you are probably going to end up writing a ton of code that eventually you will then just really throw in the garbage because you realize, okay, I built this really complex system, but it turns out the game actually doesn't need this. So I really wasted all the time working on this system when really I should have stopped and thought for a little bit more, okay, what exactly does the game need? And just focus on that instead. And then only step out of your comfort zone if you have a genuine desire to learn the stuff you don't know about. On this one, this is actually interesting because it can actually kind of go both ways. On the one hand, if you step out of your comfort zone, you might actually come up with some unique ideas. So for example, if you usually make games on really just, let's say, just the management strategy genre, and you jump into the horror genre, since you are a bit of an outsider, since you're going outside of your comfort zone, you can actually come up with some ideas that are unique to players of that genre. So that can be a positive. But yeah, in general, if you go outside of your comfort zone, like for example, for myself, I've made a lot of management tycoon games, and I've never really done a horror game. So if I jumped into that genre, there would definitely be a lot of things specific to that genre that I would have to learn about. And all that time learning would definitely take away from my efficiency. Whereas if I was making some kind of tycoon management game, I could get it done pretty quickly just because I've done so many already. So whenever you step out of your comfort zone, you are definitely going to increase the amount of things you actually have to learn. But like I said, can also have the positive where you might actually come up with something so unique that actually helps your game. So this one can kind of go both ways. But definitely, it will definitely require you to spend quite a bit more effort on it. So if you want to make a game quickly, you definitely should not try doing a random genre that you never tried doing before. If you want to make something fast and efficient, definitely make something that you are already familiar with. So basically, that developer learned how it was an issue of not understanding the genre well enough and not playing to your strengths, which are definitely valid learnings. However, personally, I believe they are missing the most important takeaway that I think perfectly explains what happened here, and it's also the same thing that happened this next example. So another example I know where this happened was with the developer Radiant Games. The first game was Instruments of Destruction, a massive hit with over 1 million in revenue. That's this game right here. Yep, this one came out in 2024 and this one was a mega hit. It really just has so much super satisfying destruction. This game was definitely a big hit. It's got so many particles, look at that, everything looks so amazing, so much destruction. That is absolutely excellent. So yeah, this one is a huge hit, players loved it, really great. However, then the next game after that was Fireball 2, which made literally just $1,000. So imagine that, making a game that makes $1 million and then your next game makes literally $1,000. That is an insane drop in revenue. Here's the game, it is called Fireball 2. This one is a satisfying arcade survival game. So yeah, definitely very different, very unique, very much abstract. Whereas the other one had tons of particles to do all kinds of really satisfying destruction. This one is more an arcade game with weird shapes and really tons of particles. So it's definitely quite interesting, but definitely very, very different from the other one. And on this one, the developer actually made a very sobering video talking about that massive difference. It's a great video, definitely check it out if you want to learn more about this story. So, like it says in the title, my last game, 129,000 wishlist, my new game, 385. Yep, that is definitely a big drop, that is definitely a rough thing. Especially mentally, it is very rough to make a game that finds so much success, and then the next game everything looks so bad. As to what I think is the reason for both these results, based on my experience, I would say it is simply marketability, which is exactly what I covered in this recent video. So if it's a video where I talked about the #1 game marketing rule, and it is exactly that, it is marketability. Your game idea needs to be marketable. If it's not marketable, then all the tricks in the world, all the perfect execution in the world will really not help. So over here, for the first example, the social deduction genre was actually super hot during COVID and the Among Us time, but that time has since passed, and nowadays it is really not a hot or marketable genre. And for the second example, arcade games have never been a hot genre, so even if you make one that is super satisfying, it is unlikely to do well. So my advice to you is pick your game ideas carefully. If your goal is to find success, then you need to ensure you work on an actual marketable idea. I really do believe this is the reason that mostly explains the difference between all of these 4 games, why some were hits and some not. This game right here, all this satisfying explosion, this is very, very marketable. It is very different from most games that exist. Whereas an arcade game, that one really has never done quite well, the arcade genre. There are very, very few arcade hits, especially on Steam. And when it comes to Matriarch and Masquerade, yep, this is definitely a genre that had a very hot point a few years ago, but then became oversaturated, nowadays not so much. Kind of same thing with Vampire Survivor likes. These were an insane hit back in 22. They did insanely well, and there were a ton of clothes coming out for about 1 year after that still did insanely well. Whereas nowadays, if you make a vampire survival like, chances are it's not going to do very well, or actually it's going to be quite tricky, just because nowadays there are so many, so you definitely need to come up with some kind of unique twist in order to actually stand out. And nowadays, the question that I see every day is, so basically the incremental genre, this one is hot right now, so for how much longer is it actually going to be hot? And the answer is, nobody really knows. I'm pretty sure that at least for the next 6 months, maybe 1 year, I'm pretty sure this genre will still be hot, but definitely more and more developers are making games in this genre. So it's probably only a matter of time until it actually becomes saturated. So perhaps 1 year plus from now, 2 years from now, perhaps by then this genre will no longer be suitable. But that's exactly why it pays to basically pay attention to Steam and how exactly things are going. That is one of the reasons why I make my top new games on Steam series. I make this so that it basically forces me to check out the Steam new release list so I can see what is hot right now, what are the genres that are dropping off, which ones are going up, and so on. If you want to find success, then keeping track of which genres are good or not is a very important thing. And like I said, this did happen to me as well, so like I wrote here, so I can empathize with these developers. Since I've gone through the exact same journey, my first Steam game, Survivor Squad, was actually a pretty nice hit, $150K. That's this game right here, it actually did very, very well. This is my very first Steam game coming out back in 2013, this one did insanely well, very good. However, for my second game, Survivor Squad Gauntlets, that one only made a few $100s at launch. Personally, I definitely did not expect my income to drop 90% from one game to the next. That was a rough wake-up call to just how challenging this game is. Thankfully, I learned from my mistakes, and my game after that was GameCorp DX, which made $250K. So yeah, this is basically the reality of the games industry, the reality of making indie games. You will hopefully have some hits, but then you will definitely have some flops, and you basically need to manage your finances so you can basically stay alive. Thankfully, I did do that, so when Survivor Squad Gauntlets, when this one was a pretty big flop, mentally that was very, very tough, but because I did not squander basically the money that my first game made, because of that, I managed to have a nice robust savings, which allowed me to basically not panic and not go homeless and lose my house. So I managed to basically buy some time, and then I made a game that actually found quite a bit of success, and then basically just went like that from game to game. But throughout my entire journey, I've definitely had a lot of bumps along the way, but over time, thankfully, I had a nice average, so I was able to survive and stay on this industry for over a decade. But yep, this scenario is definitely very possible. Game number 1 making insane success, and game number 2 not so much. So just know this can happen. That way, at least if you know it can happen, if it does happen to you, hopefully you won't be as heartbroken as I was when it happened to me, and just like it happened to these developers. If you want to escape tutorial hell or level up your own skills, then check out my Game Dev Practice Lab. This is a hands-on practice program meant for both beginners and intermediates, where you actually apply what you're learning. There are weekly game mechanic challenges where I give you the starting project files and a set of objectives that you must do in order to complete. Doing this really forces you to do, which in turn really forces you to actually learn, as opposed to just blindly watching videos where you don't really learn anything. So if you do want to level up your skills, if you want to start doing instead of just watching, if so, then check out my Game Dev Practice Lab with a link in the description. Alright, thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.